Actor, princess, mother, tablecloth designer? Grace Kelly said goodbye to her Hollywood career years before her death, but she carried her artistic spirit through her endeavors right up until the very end. Grace Kelly, Princess of Monaco, may have given up her movie career when she married Prince Rainier, but that didn't mean the high society star lost her taste for drama.
Tell me, what do you get a thrill out of most?
I'm still looking for that one.
In the years leading up to her death, she collaborated with John Carroll, who was in the business of organizing poetry recitals for large audiences. Together, Grace and Carroll staged theatrical poetry performances, beginning with the American Heritage at the 1976 Edinburgh Festival. Soon, Kelly was being invited to perform at poetry festivals across the world. Over the next 5 years, she traveled to cities including Dublin, London, Nashville, and Minneapolis to give performances. At a recital in Vienna, the princess really turned heads. According to Grace of Monaco, The True Story by Jeffrey Robinson, Carol would later recall, "Grace could speak some German. She learned it from her mother. When she told me that, we added a couple of short verses from Austrian poets referencing the magic of Vienna. Grace recited them in German at the end of the program." The decision to include the local language in Grace's performance was an excellent call, as her performance was a showstopper. Princess Grace's talents weren't limited to the performing arts. She also tried her hand at pressing and preserving flowers. Many of Kelly's contemporaries dismissed her floral work as a mere hobby. In fact, Kelly's friend, Alfred Hitchcock, was particularly critical of it, but Kelly kept going. Then, in 1977, Grace was invited to Paris to show her floral art at the prestigious Galerie Drouot. She exhibited 46 pieces, priced from $500 to $1,300. Despite the hefty price tags, every piece sold. And within 2 years, her prints were being licensed and sold on tablecloths, napkins, and placemats. According to Anne-Marie Albrechtson, the Princess Grace Foundation's chief of staff, flower pressing meant a great deal to Kelly. Speaking to Town & Country, Albrechtson shared, "It was a great way for her to express herself. She needed an artistic outlet. It's never been the most exciting thing, but Taylor Swift at the 2021 Grammys wore a dress based off a modern pressed flower designer. It's still around." In addition to pressing flowers, Princess Grace enjoyed writing about them. 2 years before her death, Kelly published My Book of Flowers, in which she wrote about flower pressing but also did a deep dive into floral arranging and even herbal medicine. Perhaps most important, the book offered some insight into the way the princess felt leading up to her tragic car accident. In a sense, Grace's book revealed a sense of peace. She wrote, "Just sliding the flowers into place brings the same kind of tranquility as doing needlework, crocheting, or knitting. No wonder the Victorian ladies spent hours making pressed flower albums and pictures. As with gardening, time just slips by." The princess also recognized the artistic opportunities her passion created, writing, "Love of flowers has opened many doors for me." And Kelly's book was a hit. Royal expert Jeffrey Robinson wrote, "Financially, the book was a huge success, and Grace's portion of royalties was soon bolstering the bank accounts of charities such as the Monaco Red Cross." At the end of the day, Grace Kelly was still an actor at heart. So when it came time to raise money for the Garden Club of Monaco, she decided to make a movie featuring some of her favorite people. Sometime in the early 1980s, the princess wrote a screenplay inspired by her love of flowers. Titled Rearranged, the film followed Grace, who played herself, as she helped a professor understand the world of flower arrangements. The project was done in the spirit of fun, and Kelly invited her friends to participate. At one point, Prince Rainier even appeared in the film as an extra. Of course, not everything about Rearranged was lighthearted. If anything, the film has a mysterious side. When the final product was ready in 1982, only a few screenings actually took place, and apparently this was not due to a lack of commercial interest. Kelly was offered $6 million, or around $22 million in today's money, for the rights to public distribution.
Will you continue with your career?
Well, that decision will be made by the prince.
It's believed that Rainier wasn't keen on the idea of showing his wife's movie to people around the world, so he locked away the print, most likely for good. Toward the end of her life, Kelly spent a lot of time in Paris. She enjoyed the glamour of a big city, all while keeping an eye on her youngest daughter, Princess Stephanie, who was enrolled at a nearby boarding school. Robinson wrote, "Paris had rekindled her need for the cultural bounties of a world-class city." But there may have been another reason the princess jetted off to the City of Light. Apparently, Kelly's marriage was far from perfect, and she may have gone to France for a break.
In Once Upon a Time, Behind the Fairy Tale of Princess Grace and Prince Rainier, royal expert J. Randy Taraborelli quoted Kelly's reply to a question about her personal life, in which she said, "Actually, I have come to feel quite sad about being married to Rainier."
While it's possible Kelly went to Paris to put distance between herself and her husband, the truth was a little bit more complicated than that.
Rumor has it that Kelly and Prince Rainier were somewhat mismatched.
But in reality, as the years went on, the pair seemed to make their marriage work, even if Kelly's long absences were part of that arrangement. Commenting on this dynamic in his book, Taraborelli hinted that the prince and princess may have slowly begun to accept each other's ways. As he explained,
when she did return to the principality, it was better than ever between her and Rainier.
In some ways, they were closer because they did not need to make demands on the other for emotional sustenance. Taraborelli went on to claim that this was a result of the decades the couple had spent together, writing, "A long marriage, even one where one or both partners are always unsatisfied, brings a certain comfort because each always knows what to expect of the other."
Grace knew she could always count on Rainier.
While things improved between Princess Grace and her husband, the same could not be said about Kelly and her youngest daughter. If anything, Grace's relationship with Princess Stephanie grew increasingly tense in the years leading up to her death in 1982. The problems began when a teenage Stephanie began to date men deemed wildly inappropriate for a woman of her stature. One of these was Urbano Barberini, an Italian aristocrat 5 years her senior. Grace once caught Stephanie making out with her blue-blooded lover, and let's just say that the former movie star was not impressed by her teenager's hot-blooded activities. She basically grounded Stephanie.
Our children were brought up with a certain amount of discipline and found it quite natural.
Some thought Kelly was overreacting, especially her rebellious daughter. Still, Grace struggled to deal with the younger princess's antics. At one point, she apparently told her friend, Charlotte Winston, "Stephanie is driving me crazy. The kid has me walking on eggshells, second-guessing everything I say or do." The princess then added that the two were locked in a constant battle of wills. Princess Stephanie wasn't the only one in the Grimaldi family who needed a bit of extra TLC. In the years leading up to her death, Kelly's eldest daughter, Princess Caroline, also needed her support. The trouble started on June 29, 1978, when Caroline married Parisian playboy Philippe Junot. Taraborelli described Junot, writing, "Junot, at least at this time in his life, was frivolous and free-spirited. He loved to dance, have fun, and live in a way that seemed to be, at least to most observers, irresponsible." Grace opposed the match, and when Caroline and Junot parted ways just 2 years later, she encouraged her daughter to file for divorce. This shocked the younger princess, who admitted, "I didn't dare to divorce or even mention divorce because Catholics don't divorce. You're supposed to just make the best of it." However, Grace reportedly turned to her daughter and reminded her, "Religion is there to help people, not make your life miserable." In the final years of her life, Grace Kelly, Princess of Monaco, didn't just help out the young women in her family. She also gave her counsel to Lady Diana when she was engaged to then Prince Charles. Grace and Diana met in London in 1981 after one of Kelly's poetry readings. The event marked Diana's first public appearance with the prince after their engagement, and she was already feeling like she was in over her head. Diana had come to understand that the black gown she was wearing that night was inappropriate, and she was having a difficult time dealing with the paparazzi. According to Taraborelli, she foresaw a life totally devoid of privacy. She was frightened. Grace reportedly reacted by hugging the younger woman and sardonically telling her, "Don't worry, dear. You see, it'll only get worse." When Grace Kelly first became Princess of Monaco, she invested a lot of time and energy into acclimating to her new environment. Not only did she have to learn French, but she needed to make new friends and win over the hearts of her new people. However, in her later years, Grace began to feel more comfortable bringing some elements of American culture into the palace. As Jeffrey Robinson explained, Grace found herself at times longing for some of the creature comforts she'd known in America. Because of this, once her children grew up, Grace dedicated herself to bringing certain aspects of her old home to her new one. She had subscriptions to the American Book of the Month Club and was partial to history books, which she was constantly ordering through the mail. Architectural Digest and the International Herald Tribune were also favorites. Interestingly, there was one subscription Grace appeared to love above the rest, The New Yorker, and in particular, the New Yorker cartoons. With each issue, Kelly found at least one cartoon that was perfect for someone she knew. So, as Robinson describes, she'd sit at her desk grinning from ear to ear with the magazine and a pair of scissors. Whenever she found one that suited her purpose, she'd cut it out, put it into an envelope, and with great glee, mail it. usually anonymously, to whomever it fit.